I have a theory that football is like a building. You have first floor, second floor, third floor. So if you are in seventh floor, you cannot take a player that is in the second floor because the gap is so big. If Erling Haaland right now, is because he took very good steps. Molde, Salzburg, Dortmund, City. Wow. They are the right step each time. I made the mistake of not taking the players from the right floor in the building. It's a huge mistake. I'm going against my convictions. One of the sentences that we said between us, let's concentrate ourselves in the things you can control. I will put an example that it was Rabiot's case, that it was so much controversial during the summer. You have your best player and you have to take a decision of putting him in the transfer market for what happened inside the dressing room. But we were taking this decision because we thought that it was the most important one for a group in the long term. It was not the most popular in the short term.
Pablo, it's so great to have you in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us first.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here, having a good conversation, thinking about different topics right now in the industry, as well coming from the investment world. For me, it's fascinating, so it's a good chat.
So much for us to cover. The first thing that we must cover, because we speak to a lot of football executives and we get a lot of questions about how to get into the world of being a football executive. Yours is so unique because you've sat on both the performance side and now sit on the business side. So for those that don't know, can you give a bit of context to how you got into sport? And I know that's a long answer for you.
Well, it's a long answer, and I'm very young, but at the same time, when I'm feeling it in the industry, well, it's 20 years that I'm in the industry now. I wanted to be a journalist, sincerely, because it was the easiest way to be close to football, because I wanted to work in the football industry. But at the same time, it was so much complicated. And I said, well, maybe the easiest way it can be to collaborate with an agent in my city and then going into the vertical of scouting world. At that time, I started to work in a first division club in Spain, Recreativo de Huelva, at that time. And after that he was so innovative at that time, this agent Eugenio Botas, a Spanish one, created a scouting platform for the clubs to give in some kind of outsourcing the scouting at that time. So at this time I collaborated with different clubs until the moment that Recreativo Huelva gave me the opportunity of being chief scout, then traveling to Italy to make my Italian career, first as a scout, secondary as a chief scout in Sassuolo, Juventus, then sporting director, Valencia, coming back to Spain. I'm feeling 10 years ago, it was the natural step, that coming from the scouting world and scouting players, recruitment, etc., the next step can be directly to be a sporting director, because years ago, financial control, it was not so tough as right now. Deals were simpler, let's say like this, and you were concentrated more in a short-term basis than, building a project or having this different kind of a strategic approach. So right now, I think that for being a football director is completely different than thinking about being a football director 10 years ago.
Being a scout and part of then that performance set up at Juventus, a club with obviously so much history and power and clout, that must have been a very cool position to hold.
Sincerely, at that time, it was amazing for two things. First of all, because we were some kind of innovative team in Italy, because we were creating strategic plans for 3 years, for 5 years, also even that, and creating some kind of innovation into the scouting, how to do a right methodology, supported always by Fabio Paratici at that time. And for me, that I liked to travel. I loved traveling around, going into different stadiums, etc. It was, I remember a sentence in my first year in Juventus. I'm in Disney World,
So how does Marseille come about then?
First of all, my dream was always to have a possibility to work in the top 5 leagues. So for me, it was interesting to go into France, because saying, I've worked for a short period of time in England, Italy, Spain, well, right now let's do France, especially for having different kind of cultures and how the sporting our football world is approached by different countries, by different cultures. This is something that it was stimulating me so high. Also, the possibility to play Champions League. That was a huge, leverage for that decision. And the last one, I wanted after my experience in Valencia, where we qualified twice for Champions League. We won the cup. We played semi-final in Europa League, and after that we were sacked by the ownership. I needed to find the passion and to find back the passion for football. There's no place better to have passion in Europe than Marseille. So it was like the perfect fit.
Really? How did it feel getting sacked, having done such good work?
It's complicated to accept, because for me in football, you have a rule. That is the rule that is fixing your week. You are winning, you are safe. You are losing, you start to have troubles, and it's the right pressure because you want to win, because you don't want to have, to be at risk. This is the sporting mentality. At the moment that you are winning, you are not expecting to be out, and it was very hard to accept.
So you go into Marseille. Football is a results-driven business. We always know this. It's the biggest challenge when trying to find the ways to build and develop things longer term, but also keep everything moving on the pitch. How was the team when you found it, when you walked in? What were the biggest things that you had to deal with?
First of all, it was, it was a tough time, especially about COVID, especially for a club that you have a massive stadium, 67 key stadium. So you are depending so much on your stadium performance. So it was super challenging on how to start to transform the roster through a change of the model in the French league. Then it has been so much challenging about all the changes in the French landscape, etc. But the most important thing, it was how to find sporting performance short term, let's say like this, because after that you can create all the rest of the verticals, that is commercial one, stadium, and trying to attire the local community to be back into the stadium. That was the first thing that we were looking for. It was how to put back the people in the stadium, to have a sold out stadium, and to create this kind of connection between your fans and people wishing to come to the stadium all the time,
67,000, what are the revenues per game? And as a portion of your total revenue, is ticket sales enormous?
Yes, it's enormous. As a vertical, let's say like this, out of player trading, in our fixed revenues, playing Champions League can be around 30% of our revenues.
That's much higher than other teams, no?
Yeah, especially because you don't have a media right that is balancing.
Which has also moved it much higher as a percentage.
Exactly. But at the same time, for us, having this stadium is a competitive advantage. It's true that obviously you have to have into consideration different factors like the OPEX around the stadium that is not, let's say like this, cheap in comparison with other countries.
Is it more expensive to run the stadium than other countries?
That depends on each country. For example, in Spain, you have 50 years rental for €1 in different clubs. You have the state that is covering the expenses about police and security out of the stadium. And you have complete different models, like in Italy, that, for example, is a mixed system, or Germany that is completely different. For us, as the stadium is owned by municipality, we are paying an annual rent. We are paying massive security expenses. Because for us, obviously, we think that we need to have the best experience for our fans as possible.
How much does it cost to security for a game? Ballpark.
Important games, you can go around more than 500k.
500k on security?
in the important games. Yeah,
Do you think a lot about F&B, like food and beverage?
it's a lot. Yes, and right now we are thinking about it from a strategic perspective, because we have also the particularity of having a stadium downtown. So finally, we are not recovering all the euros on F&B, because a lot of, there are a lot of bars, there are a lot of restaurants around the stadium, etc., etc. So in this way, there is also a big challenge on how to turn the maximum, respecting everybody, because obviously downtown, you are creating value as well for your city. But it's true that it's super challenging as well, increasing F&B if you have a stadium downtown,
Yeah, that's super hard. And you want the community to win as well from games being hosted there and pubs and bars and everything. But you want as much of the wallet of the consumer as possible.
Absolutely. And there's a big tradition of consuming inside the stadium in Marseille. As it's a sunny city, you have a good weather during all the year. People love to be in the street. People is consuming in the street. They love to stay, 1 hour before the kickoff, being outside and being in community. So it's super challenging.
Is every game sold out?
Since 2.5 years, yes.
If you increased it to 80,000, could you sell out? Like, why don't you increase supply?
It's always a good question. But, in Marseille, you need to keep always a balance between the popular component, because you have one of the poorest, let's say like these areas in Europe.
Yeah.
And there's a city with a big level of social economic difference, and there's a particularity in your city that you have to respect. And I like to respect it, because for us, Olympique Marseille and football in Marseille is so much popular that we are offering to our fans 26 key tickets. That is almost an average of 12 euros per game if we are counting Champions League and League One and domestic league. So we are proud as well of keeping that level of popularity, because this is creating your DNA.
12 euros a ticket. That's incredible.
And if you are taking the season ticket card, yeah.
That's amazing. When
up your ticket prices, mate.
Yeah,
up them.
No, but again, you've just described why you don't, right? Because you've got one of the poorest areas, and that feeds into the fan base. So yeah, but if you do, then you don't sell out your stadium. You don't have the atmosphere that you.
Well, actually,
create.
that's interesting. If you increase prices, would you still sell out? I think you would.
Yes.
You just take consumer money.
But you are renouncing to your DNA. So the strategy is not how to increase it all the stadium, is how to create a segmentation where you can, let's say like this, doing an optimization of your stadium, keeping your DNA. This is always a very strategic conversation, and this is why we are working a lot on thinking about what are the different offers in hospitality, what are the different segmentation in the stadium, where everybody can find their place in the stadium,
Totally.
Because if you look, one of the best things about Marseille, you go to the Velodrome, or you see the Velodrome, the atmosphere, right, that is created is incredible. The intensity of the fans, that builds what, you see clubs going there on European nights.
Chelsea is often hailed as having a terrible atmosphere. Yeah. Do you think if Chelsea ticket prices were cheaper and made available to a wider demographic of people, it would be a better atmosphere?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But, it's, for example, Stamford Bridge is a good example. You have 1.5 stands that have what I would call as, I don't mean proper fans, but let's say fans that would go every single week. Then you have the 2 side stands, which are priced much higher. They are where a lot of the corporates sit. It was 4.2. We got offered tickets to sit in this new stand. It's not hospitality. It's just better access to food and beverage. It was 4.2k per ticket.
Wow.
It's
no.
something. It's something, in my opinion, sincerely, and this is something that I'm always thinking about it. Obviously, we as clubs, and this is your intention, you need to have better commercial revenues, better revenues coming from ticketing. You need to maximize everything, and this is normal, because finally you are doing the natural allocation to buy better players, and you are creating more expectation, more people coming to the stadium. But at the same time, I think that we in football, we need always to think about how to keep the principles of football. And for me, the principles of football is that this is a popular sport. You need to have your core fan base going always to the stadium. At the same time, yes, from the other side, you need to see, okay, what is the best economic models coming from my stadium? For me, one main answer can be to have a stadium that is working each day in the year. This is something that is quite important.
What do you make of the rise of like multi-purpose, where you see Tottenham having events, NFL? How do you feel about multi-purpose? And is that something that you think every team will need to adopt to maximize revenues?
Absolutely, yes. And this is something that is very related to the technology of the pitch, because especially you need to, everything depends on the quality of your pitch and what is the technology to keep safe and obviously to play in the best conditions your pitch. For me, it's everything about this.
How much do you invest in your pitch?
The last year we invested 1.5 million in maintenance of the pitch.
I'm sorry for being naive again. Is that a lot compared to other teams?
No, it's in the average, especially because right now and I'm taking into consideration changing the pitch, because for us we have a strong, summer concert tour. So we are trying to optimize, do it through 3 weeks in the summer to organize as maximum as concerts as we can. So you have to change the pitch. And as well, you need to maintain it during all the years with all the different products, etc. Because finally, the quality of your spectacle depends right now in football a lot on the quality of your pitch.
How important has winning been and performance on the pitch? How important has that been based on the business that you're able to generate off it? And I use the example of Man United, for example, who have been far below the standards expected of them for many years, but their performance in a corporate level, on a business level, has still been very strong.
Each club has a particular model, that's for sure. But for me, sporting results is the core of everything, because I'm not feeling that you can have commercial impact without sporting performances. People that are not wishing to come to the stadium to see a team that is not performing in the pitch. So for me, this is about everything. And because it's what I'm mentioning always, when you are asking what is the most important thing in a football club, and a lot of people can answer, okay, it's the stadium, it's the commercial, it's revenue, I don't know, it's branding, win next game. Because if you are winning, you can continue creating commercial revenue, people coming to the stadium. This is the core. You need to win. You have to win. You have to keep the best performance in the pitch as you can and you are expecting from your fans, and putting everybody in the track of the most important thing, the players, because they are the main actors, is winning the game, and we need to do everything from all the different departments to allow the team to perform in the best conditions. This is something that nowadays in 2025 is so much challenging.
Do you get involved in the process of bringing players to the clubs? How do you approach that side of it?
So right now I'm trying to delegate it as much as I can, especially because we have right now a very good football director who's working very well with the coach, Mehdi Benatia and Roberto De Cervi. So at that time, for me, it's more a strategic supervision of the processes and intervening in negotiations, especially in the most critical ones, trying to go a little bit to the action in final part of the negotiation. And I'm seeing more my position like, a steward of the strategy.
De Zerbi was a brilliant hire for you, I'd imagine. You must have been delighted to get him in at a time where his stock was so high from his time in England. So
much energy consuming that process, sincerely. But,
how was that process? Like, how did it come to be?
Sincerely, that was something that it was curious, because we were looking for a coach after a very difficult season. Yeah, we played semifinals in Europa League against Atalanta. We lost semifinal, but we ended the league in 8th position. That is something that is not acceptable in Marseille. So we were knowing that since February that we have to look for a new coach, right? Different coaches said no before the semifinal of Europa League, but at the same time, a friend called me when we were a little bit doubting the process, and he said to me, listen, that next week, Roberto De Zerbi, maybe he will leave Brighton. But don't tell anyone, obviously. He will. 10 seconds after, I was calling Roberto's agent. As we were discussing in the past, before he moved to Brighton, he was an option.
And what did you say to him? Hey, I'm just thinking about you. By chance.
No, I was saying, okay, I know that for Roberto, it can be interesting because when we played Olympique Marseille, Brighton, he said in the press conference, this is a stadium I love, this is a club I really like, blah, 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 because it's, something that I feel identified with the club. I said, I know that it's complicated. We're not playing a European competition next year. I think it's something that it will be impossible. I know what you are doing with Brighton. So let's have a chat with the coach, because I want to explain to him the ideas we would like to have. At the same time, my football director was speaking directly as well with the coach. But at that time, it was more about personal and human relationships that rational decision for every one of us.
I think people look at managers and think they manage the team. They do all the buying, they do all the selling, they do all the research. What do people get most wrong about what a football manager does?
I think it's changing completely, and it's about the different countries, especially because I think that here in England, the people think that the coach and the manager is doing so much more things that he is doing right now. In reality, I think in the south of Europe, we are, putting inside the job description, if we can tell like this, more of the coach skills, that is managing the team in the day-to-day. He's the boss of what's happening inside the pitch. But finally, for example, that depends on the agreements you have morally with your coach. For example, our agreement with Roberto, it was that no player can come to the team without your consensus.
Is that normal?
That depends on the way you want to manage your coach. Obviously, having a super talented coach and one of the best coaches in Europe, you need to do that concession. That for me is not a concession, let's say like this, especially because if you have a coach with a very strong methodology and very identified style, finally you need to adapt to him and giving him the best tools to play under the methodology.
If you are, was it Allegri when you were at Juventus?
Yeah.
Was that the same type of conversation? Does he want to have that level of control, or are some far less concerned and far more happy to coach?
No, I don't think that Roberto wants to have the control. It's more the way we want to work together, because we are trying to create some kind of consensus and super alignment between the key actors in the club. This is the way I'm approaching it. With Max is completely different, because yes, he was demanding, as all the coaches. You need to have the best players as you can. But Max was someone that he was giving a lot of confidence to the sporting department of the players arriving, especially because for Max his methodology about football is about having very clear, let's say like this, level of players and talented players and creativity in the different positions with different skills. So he was giving a lot of confidence to the sporting department.
So does Roberto come to you and go, Pablo, I want this player, go and get me this player? Would he do that with you?
He can, because we are speaking all the days, and my football director and Roberto, they are speaking until 2:00 in the night all the day. So in that way, this day-to-day conversation, what I'm trying to fix in all these, different kind of balance of relationships is more what are the limits for the different positions, what is the budget, what is the financial planning, what is the strategy as well, because I think that we need to speak about the strategy. So finally, it's more not an organized, weekly meeting for the market. No, it's a day-to-day conversation. This, yes. This, no. Pablo, do an effort here. Okay, if you are doing an effort here, you need to have another strategy in that position or in that one. So it's more like, working in normal conditions. I think we have so much processes right now in the society. But if you have a normal relationship, an open relationship with everybody, it's easier.
Football director versus manager. How do you separate those roles? Manager manages everything on the pitch inside the team. What does the football director actually do, or the technical director?
I'm doing it something like it's not the pitch, just the pitch, and obviously all the tactical decisions, who's playing, who's not playing, etc. It's more dressing room. I think the coach has to be the boss of the dressing room and controlling all the internal relationships there. And he needs to keep that kind of leadership through the group, and his position in your football director in another perspective where everybody, they feel, okay, he's the steward coming from the club because he has the strategy and he has the leverage as well into the critical decisions. Is how to put different levels without delegitimizing the leadership of the coach inside the dressing room.
So this will naturally take us down the financial rabbit hole that we'll eventually get to. But on transfer market, how has it been when you're operating now in a European transfer market where we've seen just crazy fees go up? The numbers that you need to be able to have to spend on players is so high, not just on salaries and not just on signing on fees, but salaries as well. How have you managed that? How have you dealt with that as we've seen this overall market inflation and the players that you're able to go out and target and hopefully bring to the club?
I've stayed the last month and a half thinking about this question, how to be competitive, because you have huge distance with Premier League, you have distance with the top European clubs. Coming from our perspective that, you are 1 year in Champions League, 1 year out. First of all, is okay being all the years in Champions League. That's my answer, number one. Second answer is going to the market positions where the others, they are not going. This is what we are trying to analyze, especially because if you are going where everybody is going, you are paying the inflation, and you are paying a very saturated market.
Where do you think value is where others are not going?
Especially for me, it's by age group. Because right now, football, with a new investment coming into football, everybody is going, okay, I will buy a player with 21 years old because I think he will play with me, he will take some value, so finally I'm creating value, so I'm getting financial results, and I'm getting cash, I'm getting financial results. So everybody is playing right now this game that I fully understand, and it's logic, especially because one of the main verticals in football is player trading, of course. But at the same time, this is creating an overinflation in this particular age group where everybody's going, as a strategy that I'm thinking about how to be competitive, not touching this overinflated.
So what does that mean? You go earlier?
Earlier or later.
So let's use Hojbjerg, right? You have a player, you playing for Spurs, very competitive in the Premier League. What's your sell of Marseille? How do you position the club to a player like that, where you go, this is the place you have to come to, this is why we're different?
Two things, especially because I think when you are getting into maturity in your career, you want to play Champions League every year. That's point number one in a player like Pierre. So we were selling a project, first of all, about passion, about loving for football, about being in a different environment, trying to play Champions League each season. So at that time, when you are getting mature in your career, you are looking for not only for, a career plan, I'm going to England and I'm developing myself. After that, you are thinking about, okay, how to be stable at the top level, how to feel about emotions, how to feel that I'm important in a project. He has a natural leadership, Pierre, for example. In that time, I think that matched automatically with the ambience, especially because he speaks French. And as well, he played with our football director, Mehdi Benatia, in Imbalance. So it was like, okay, it's the perfect mix. And at the same time, you are going to a phase in the market by age where nobody they are going to invest in players in Pierre is in 95. So we invested on him when he had 29 years old.
But inherently with that, I get you. But it's a bit like buying a car at the kind of 75% of life zone, where it's like, sure, but like the resale value on that is shit. Like, do you worry about that?
Not for a reason, because I want to assure the sporting result.
Come and work at Chelsea, please.
So you're like, I'll buy you a bit cheaper because people don't want to pay that much for a 29-year-old or a 30-year-old. And I'm happy to have a hit on the resale value, and we'll sell them to some...
No, I will continue to depreciate. From a financial perspective, the value I'm taking is not about the transfer of the player. It's about his performance and his stability, that it will help me to have maybe younger players to play close to him and learn from him.
So it's not just about his sale value, right? Basically, if he gets you into the Champions League as well, he's repaid his transfer fee like that based on his performances. You could say exactly the same about an Aubameyang, right?
Yeah.
Aubameyang scores the goals for you, that you suddenly get into a much stronger position. Even though he's very old, you're not getting a value at the end of it.
No, let's say like this. This is a strategic conversation we had during this summer with Aubameyang. It's a question. Do you prefer to invest, I don't know, 50 million euros, 15 or 20 million euros in capex for a 23 years old striker, or do you prefer to have Aubameyang with his level for free? We were thinking, okay, let's do no capex for Aubameyang, paying his salary. He knows the club. He's a player that he was also very fit in Saudi Arabia. So I prefer to have this sporting performance than taking a risk on the player that he has to adapt. I have to create value with him, etc. But as well in that position that we have Aubameyang, Guiri, who is a 2000 born player, but we have Robinho Vaz that is a 2007 who's playing behind them, and at that time Robinho Vaz is performing right now because he feels stable, maybe for having Aubameyang who is taking all the pressure, and Guiri that last season he was very good and right now he's playing well for us, he's taking out all the pressure for the kid.
So when you have an Aubameyang for free, do you then have a signing on fee that makes him want to join you, and then a higher salary, and you can factor that in because you're getting him for free?
That depends on the age. In this case, it was not the case because he was expecting and wishing to go back to Marseille. But in other players that you are signing for free, yes, there's a signing fee. But finally, you need to compensate everything, because for me, signing fee and salary is the same thing.
It's except one's paid in a lump sum and one's not.
No, finally you have to pay it and you have to pay taxes about it. So finally, for me, it's like salary. You have to pay higher salary for a player that is coming for free.
You said about like finding value where others don't. I love that, and I love this discussion. One that is finding value where others don't is Mason. Like, how did you think about that one? Because it's a controversial decision, because he's obviously a great talent, but it is also controversial, finding value where others aren't.
Obviously, that takes into different question now. One is about, let's say like this, no? Are you taking the right decision? And sincerely, at that moment, I needed to take the right decision from my perspective also, what are the values of your club? This is point number one, because we are doing football with values, and I would like to sleep all the nights. And so in that way, sincerely, we made a deep taking of information coming from the different clubs he played about what was the situation, what happened, etc. And seeing, okay, am I feeling comfortable as leading this club with the information I have? And my answer was yes, absolutely, at the moment that you have all the information. So at that time, you are taking an advantage of a situation in the market, because you know that he's super talented, that he's playing for you, and you are having this possibility for a circumstance that happened in the past. At the moment that you are thinking that you are taking the right decision, this one, okay, let's do it.
Did you all agree?
It was individual disagreement in the table, only one person. But finally, at the moment that the decision is taken,
second part then, once you do get that and you have that, how important is it to then figure out how to make the best level of communications with everyone outside the room so that you can put across the work that you've done? And do you take the approach of we need to do this, or do you take the approach of no, we're going to do it and it doesn't matter what other people think?
Sincerely, for me, it's very easy. If you are convinced in all the strategy communication, when you are doubting and you are forcing a situation, you will have always a very bad communication strategy because you won't be credible. At the same time, you know that you need a communication strategy. It's obvious. Let's tell the truth. Let's tell why we take this decision, but with transparency, explaining all the process, explaining why did we arrive to take this decision, and after that will be the time that it will judge, and that will be, the day-to-day, that it will put all along the things in this position.
You have some incredible fans, some mad fans, right? On the communication, when it comes down to them and players and the buy-ins, how important is it when you're going through the transfer strategy and you're bringing those players in? How important is the fan base in that, putting together a team that they can get behind?
For me, it's not about the fan base because you cannot change it. And in my opinion, you need to understand what are they expecting from the players. For me, it's more about players that they are adapting to the particularities of Marseille. This is point number one. Because it's so much passionate. So at the moment that you have a lot of patience, you need very stable psychological players. Because you have both risks. First of all, overestimating yourself, that you are feeling, I'm better. Because when we are winning 3 games, you are feeling that you are the king. No, because you will underperform at the moment that you are overestimating yourself. In the negative trend, you are feeling that you are the worst player maybe in the world, and this is not the case. So you need in Marseille this good mix between experience and not thinking about the situations. That mix, someone that is stable, someone that is not thinking a lot about the emotions, patience, etc. At the same time, you need people that psychologically they are not undulating and they are keeping themselves very, very stable in any circumstance.
So that psychological part is a key part of your recruitment. You'll look at how a player is, the personality. Absolutely,
yes. This is very important. And right now I'm thinking about this is something that is making the difference for creating a group. Because football is not an individual sport. You need to put together 22, 25 personalities.
Yeah, Mbappe. Kidding. Get out. Kidding. I'm just a business guy.
But what did Steve Pagliuca say? What? When Steve Pagliuca was talking about fans and...
he said the hardest thing is to separate emotion from fan sentiment, which is like to not let fan sentiment dictate the decisions that you make. So fans are like, oh, we want the manager sacked. And it takes a lot of independent willpower as an owner to be like, no, I'm going to continue believing in the manager and I'm going to ignore what you have to say.
This is what I'm speaking about, short-term, medium-term, and long-term, And if you're creating confidence between the key actors in the club, you can fix your own strategy. Because one of the sentences that we said between us, let's concentrate ourselves in the things you can control. Because the external factors, you cannot control it. You need to have it into consideration, because if not, you are mad and you are not doing the proper things. But if you have conviction on the things, let's do the good things. For example, I will put an example that it was Rabiot's case, that it was so much controversial during the summer. You have your best player, and you have to take a decision of putting him in the transfer market for what happened inside the dressing room. In that way, it's not the most popular decision, But we were taking this decision because we thought that it was the most important one for a group in the long term. It was not the most popular in the short term.
That's tough. Can I ask you on the transfer side there, you mentioned like putting them in the market. On the bringing them in, I think a lot of lessons are learned from mistakes that you make. What % of transfers do you think are good decisions versus bad?
I think in a normal group, sincerely, and I always say this, if you have more positive than negative, I think more positive than negative, let's say like this 60-40, this is a good number, especially because that's what I mentioned. Finally, you are working with human capital. You are working with emotions. You are working with psychologically. Not everyone is made for playing in a club. I always say they are not good or bad players. They are good players for a context. They are bad players for the same context.
So what do you think was the biggest mistake, and what did you learn when you reflect back?
Sincerely, going against my own convictions. I have a theory in football that football is like a building. You have first floor, second floor, third floor, blah. So if you are in 7th floor, you cannot take a player that is in the 2nd floor because the gap is so big. And I always put 2 examples in my career. If Erling Haaland right now, is because he took very good steps each time. Molde, Salzburg, Dortmund, City. Wow. They are the right step each time. Another case that he arrived to the top, but with another pathway, it's Alexander Isak. Because Alexander Isak, he went very young from Eikapsonna, Scandinavia, to Dortmund directly without the intermediary step. He had to go to Willem II, Netherlands, then Real Sociedad, then Newcastle, then Liverpool to arrive to the top of the pyramid. But you have to do the step by step. Each time I made the mistake of not taking the right step of the players or taking the players from the right floor in the building, it's a huge mistake. I'm going against my convictions.
So if you think about that same analogy, are you the 7th floor in your mind? Or are you the 6th? And I mean that with respect, but if you think about the right next step, everyone wants to end up at Madrid or Barcelona at the end of the day, it would seem. Every boy's dream is to play the Bernabeu. Are you the 6th step? And how do you think about where you sit and where the right person to get for you is then as a result?
For me, I would like to position the club, but this is something that you can do it at the moment that you are very stable in Champions League, to sell to the top of the pyramid, but you need to play regularly in Champions League to do that. We are starting to do that. I don't know, for example, selling Luis Enrique to Inter Milan is something that we were expecting to sell a player to a top club in the pyramid. In this case, for me, it's very important to take the players maybe from the stage that they are upper you, and the recruitment on opportunities in the step that is 1 step down or 2 step downs only from you, but it's very especially about being opportunistic and creating your talent at home. I don't know, right now in the team we have 3 players that we took very young. They were educated through our academy system and arriving to the first team. This is one path. Another path is taking players from level up. Another one is opportunities in the level down.
Which one works least? In my head, I would say that taking someone from Madrid and taking them down is the least likely to succeed.
You are taking level. Life, for me, is about level and talent. If you are taking a player from a level up, obviously you are having a player that touch and played in a level that is up than you, and he can manage pressure and level better than the others if he has the right level. For me, football is about, yes, putting a collective, putting them to be in a good mood, everybody together. But obviously, life is about the level at the level of performance you have, your internal level quality.
Why? Can I ask you, why do you think that is the case? Because just as a quick example, like if I'm at Real Madrid, using that example, and I'm not quite being maximized at my potential, and I have a club like Marseille with a 65,000+ seat stadium and an amazing football heritage, and I get the chance to play every week still in the Champions League, and I'm still young enough where I'm looking, this is a really positive move for me in the future of my career, that's a good thing?
For me, I would worry about egocentricity, lack of team. I came from Madrid. I'm better because I was at Madrid or Barcelona. I'm the star of this team. Hence the big transfer fee, and I am better than them.
I'm taking your point. This is true, but at the same time, you need to feel that the player is coming with the right mentality, with the right hunger.
With the right humility. Yeah. Totally agree.
I fully agree with that thing, but for me, psychological aspect is the key. You cannot put someone that is changing the balance because you have your strength is the group.
I so much respect the strength of the group that for me, it's like any bad egg is worrying for me in that respect.
I could talk about this all day. The one thing I do really want us to talk about is the media rights landscape now in France, because it feeds into so much of how you can operate as a team. And it's also something that people are really, really active in their discussions on. Can you give a really quick overview of where we're at right now with the rights cycle and how you've had to adapt this year?
Well, it's quite complicated, quite challenging, especially because we needed to restart completely the audiovisual model in France. We are coming from, in 2 seasons, right? From a contract that it was around 600 million euros globally. Central media, centralized distribution to all the clubs, not individual negotiation, etc. To a contract that it was not the contract we expected with DAZN, going through a termination of the contract. And right now, restarting all the model, creating your own OTT, your own channel, and controlling the editorial about the league. Operating in the system right now with 8 games plus 1 game coming through being a sport that they are paying a minimum guaranteed each season.
Got you. And that changes 600 to about 150 this year?
We are thinking about the modeling where you are going about, yes, let's say like this, 150 plus 75 million coming from DAZN, plus the termination fee coming from BIM, and the termination fee 85 coming from DAZN.
So if we think about that on a club basis, you used to make how much from Central, and what is that now today, this year, with the direct consumer?
Let's say like this, that this global forecast, we passed from having around 40 million euros to forecasting for this season between 18, 18.
So how do you exist? How do you operate now?
How do you exist
in a market? But previously you have these revenue streams. This is why it's really interesting to talk about the media rights side, particularly in this country, where it's such a core part of the revenues. But the clubs are really built on this. So take it away, and the majority of them would be they'd be in a disaster. So when you have a situation like this where you lose your core revenue, how do you adapt to make sure that it doesn't completely ruin your business?
Holy Champions League. First of all,
win the Champions League.
This participating in Champions League, so you need to assure and being very conservative on your sporting strategy. I think that sounds very bad, but it's about, okay, don't take risky decisions with your sporting strategy because you have to be in Champions League each season, and this is what is helping you as well to develop the other verticals, that is being very focused on how to optimize your stadium, how to optimize your commercial revenues, sponsorship, and as well how to think differently about your player trading, this putting so much more pressure on player trading.
Financially, Champions League, how does that change the balance sheet of a football club? If you're in it versus you're not, what is that difference?
In our case, let's be very clear. This changing your budget 30-40% for a French club.
30-40% of the whole budget. Wow. What is that in money? I'm sorry, is that like 30-40 million? Is that?
Oh, it's much more. Because you are counting on fixed revenue coming from Champions League, something that you are winning for prize money coming from your results, bonuses from the different sponsors, much more match day because you are playing good games in your stadium.
So you're saying there's like an 80 million-ish?
A little bit less, but you are getting closer to that.
Get in the Champions League. Get in the That's outrageous.
But you can survive on it then if you're in the Champions League. What about the competitive balance of France and the French league for those that aren't? That's where it becomes really problematic, right?
This is a real problem, sincerely, and this is how the league you are starting to feel. This is why it's very needed for you to be 2 years, 3 years in a row in Champions League, because you are increasing that distance commercially and also from a sporting position. So right now is okay, how you can assure to fix this gap for a while, that after that you created that competitive edge through the others. And this is right now the key strategical problem, where you need to think also about, okay, at this moment that you are, how do you use the money coming from Champions League? You need to keep this stability in the roster, in the sporting result, but at the same time you need to think, how can I invest the money on creating recurrent revenues in the other verticals? At the same time, trying to help as much as you can to restart and rebuild all the audiovisual landscape in your local market.
Can you tell us about the CVC influence then and deal? So, because this seemed quite incredible to me, and the numbers associated with it alongside the media deals that couldn't be done, where, to give context, I think LFP Media, basically it's a carve out of the commercial side of the league, and LFC and CVC have invested in it. I think they bought 13% for 1.5 billion euros, valuing it at over 11 billion euros. That's just from an outside perspective, a huge deal, a huge valuation. How does that help the clubs? How's that being put to use for the teams in the league?
In my opinion, that was in a moment where everybody was needing cash coming from COVID. And it was something that it was like, an oxygen going to the clubs, that it was needed, sincerely, at that moment, because all the clubs, they were struggling financially. But with the main problem, that this is the consequence, that finally that money was not allocated to create recurrent revenue. So finally it didn't help so much. It was a short-term impact to save a lot of clubs, to save a lot of cash needings of different clubs. It was an inflation, obviously, in salaries and capex in players, but finally it's not creating recurrent revenue.
Does Marseille break even?
It's complicated. We are trying to ping break even playing Champions League.
Okay, so break even being Champions League. You have an American owner. American owners often have large wallets. Do you get pressure to be a profitable, good business, or does he want to run it as a winning ego entity?
For me, it's about the good balance, and this is a good thing about our owner, Frank. That finally is how to feel the good balance, because sustainability in football is necessary. Absolutely, yes. And I fully believe on it, that you need to be sustainable. That's for sure. But at the same time, football, he understands perfectly that football is about as well having the best strategy. Financial results without the strategy and the knowledge of the landscape and particularities of this industry is hard. And he understands this, so he has the good mix, It's not about, okay, football has to be 200% sustainable and this financial result at the end. No, football is completely different. Football as well is about the emotions, winning, and finally is the sporting result that is putting you into the sustainability. This for sure. But at the same time, thinking, okay, let's put only the focus in the sporting result, that will be mismanagement from a management group.
The US and its sporting ownership models, they bring a lot to clubs. The US sports are fantastic at doing certain things. Commercial maximization often is a key part of it. Has Frank and the team around it, through the American ownership, what have they brought to the club to really add the value that maybe they've learned in the US to improve the business of Marseille?
For me, it's about the strategy, about knowing the collective environment that if you have a competitive league and a competitive landscape with the others, you can create a lot of value. In my opinion, what they are giving is a lot of, strategic vision and a lot of experience for their experience in the Dodgers, because doesn't matter the sport, but a lot of dynamics will be always the same, with fans, with communication, with day-to-day problems, management of the different problems with the players. They are giving a lot of strategical vision and thinking.
So if the competitive balance is key, they want the competitive league. This media situation that we see right now, as I said, the situation of removing a lot of the media rights cash from clubs, especially the ones that aren't playing Champions League. How does can an owner affect and kind of help change things in the league to try and ensure that the competitive balance isn't corrupted? Can they get involved together? How does that work?
For me, this is a good point, especially because for me, different owners, they have to speak with each other to create a dialogue on, okay, how can we fix it and making it better for all of us and profitable, because we will have all of us will have an advantage. So this is an important role that owners can play, especially because you need to protect your investment, you need to protect your landscape, you need to fix all the problems, because right now there is a problem that we have, sincerely, that we are going against two core principles. First of all, we run away from our fans globally in the French model, in the French product, because finally last season it was only, we ended by 600 key subscribers, the league. It's complicated. So
600K?
Yeah, so low. And this,
so people just not watching?
Not watching it because the price was so high. Maybe the strategy was not the best one. It was not a quality product that it was well sold, let's say like this, in the market. So fans ran away completely from the audiovisual model. But at the same time, the attendance in the stadiums were increasing. So they were taking it more like a live product in the stadium that is this event. At the same time, you cannot run away from your fans, and the credibility you have as a product, as a collective movement, is very necessary to be credible with the fans. Second one is going against the interest of the different investors, that you need to focus on how can we protect as a league, as a movement, the investors who are taking risk on investing in your industry,
Do you not just think we're going to see the concentration of value into leagues? And what I mean by that is, like, forgive me, the French league, the Spanish league, the Portuguese league. Yeah, there's like a couple of world-class teams, but the chasm is so real that it's not really a very good league actually to watch. And it's pretty obvious who's going to be where. Okay, whatever. The Premiership's the winner. Like, the concentration of value is the Premiership. And you see it with America, where every American, they say they like the MLS, everyone has an English Premier League team.
No, but that's for sure. No, it's not about forgive or not. It's about assuming the reality. And this is something that we need to think collectively about it. Because finally, yes, if we have, I was discussing yesterday with a friend. Okay, in the competition between the different leagues, okay, let's give the trophy to the Premier League. They won. Okay, that's for sure. Right now is how the rest of the league, can we think together about, okay, how can we create something different that it can allow us to be competitive. This right now what I'm thinking about it from a global strategy.
What do you think the Premiership did to win? Because when you look at it, most of the clubs are pretty unsustainable in terms of their P&Ls and them as businesses.
For me, it's about three different questions. One is tradition. Second is putting everybody in the stadium and creating an event where you are feeling that everybody they are in the stadium. Third is about the quality, because the quality increased a lot during the last, obviously, years. different reasons. Language, English, it's an international language. Also talent of executives, especially coming from a league perspective on how to have this commercial vision of your product, and you can bring it not only nationally but internationally. Let's say fidelity with your fans, with your broadcasters, with your partners. There are a lot of reasons that they are helping.
But if we're looking at that, and let's apply exactly what you just said there to France. We have heritage, history and tradition. You've got fantastic clubs, whether it's the Marseilles, the Lyons. You have clubs there that have a steep history. You have hugely passionate fans. You have geographically, language maybe not, but geographically, a lot of people who would love to live in the south of France, I'm sure. So you do have the benefits of that, and it's still a lovely country. So it's just about finding, I guess, that if you've got all of those things and it still matches, it's just about finding that extra bit on top, which allows you to compete with something like the Premier League. But I don't know, it's did they just hit it at a right time? The 90s and the early 2000s for football, the ability to drive very high prices when rights, because that's what this is all built on, right? Rights has driven the commercial value, and rights right now, you can't build a model on it, as we've just discussed. So if you're looking at how to develop something, you can't just fall back on, we've got to make ourselves a really attractive media product. You have to think differently.
Completely.
The Premier League could do that. And so it's a timing thing as much as anything else.
But you need to think about the different verticals, and you need to think, okay, what is the innovation I can bring into my product? It's not about putting a camera here, that. No, you have to give quality, that's for sure. But you need to think, okay, you have made in France, do something around it. You have a fantastic, trend internationally about lifestyle, how to make that synergy between lifestyle, maybe football, how to think it a little bit out of the box and creating some kind of international trend that it can help you a little bit more. It's not a reconstruction only, okay, media landscape, let's rebuild it. It's about thinking differently from your own product and how to create synergies that football finally, yes, it's a very important industry of course. But right now, we need to think about football not only as an industry, that it was already a step, thinking about the football industry. It's not only about elevating yourself and being inside sport industry. Yes, that can be the next step, but we as in France, we need to go much more longer and think if you want to be innovative and trying to create a movement, is that you have to start to think about it, that this is purely entertainment industry. And going that double jump is something that is necessary, I think, if you want to be competitive once with the Premier League somehow.
But you've spoken short, medium and long term throughout, and it underpins the conversations we have normally. But this is almost where I look at this with potentially the most advantage to you. You've been forced into a situation where you've had to go D2C. But D2C is a conversation lots of leagues and organizations have had for a long time. So the challenge now, if I'm in the ownership group, is I need to make sure collectively that we finance and keep our clubs alive while this D2C model finds its feet, while we are trying to bridge the gap from where we were previously with media. But in 5 to 10 years' time, we could have one of the best D2C league football platforms in the world. You've had to do it early, but inevitably when the Premier League can no longer rely on its third party, when the numbers, and they have no more games left to sell, so they can't keep increasing the price, you've already done it. You're speaking, you own your fan. It's not Skies, it's not DAZN's, it's not Beers. You own it.
You own it. This is also not here telling about our strategies, but obviously you have to adapt. You have to have a CRM strategy about how to connect the subscribers that are in the channel with your data lake. You have to think.
Do you have a big technology budget? You said there about data lake and CRM. This is my world now. I'm like, oh, hello.
Welcome to the conversation.
Sports teams are chronically underinvesting in technology.
Absolutely, yes.
How much do you invest in technology a year? And how do you think about how sports teams will invest in tech over the next few years?
Sincerely, not so much. Right now,
that's my strategy out the fucking window.
Right now is we need to have the proper strategy and we need to transform your business. About the different, how does it affect to you is about how you are putting the allocation of your investments. And right now, one of the key allocation is about, for me, sincerely, It's about technology, CRM, creating data lake, how to connect with your subscribers in the channel and you as a club, how to make this language and how to communicate with them, how to help the channel.
How much do you think you spend on tech a year?
I can tell you, I need to check obviously the budget, but I think we are spending around 1.8 in IT.
Is that average?
So low for what you need the transformation. Right now, sincerely, if we are speaking about technology, you need to think about how to have an AI strategy collectively for the club and having the real strategy on how to optimize all the processes, because finally it can bring you to much more efficiency in your business. You need to think about how to create new processes from your sporting department, how to create a different analytics that is not what everybody's using, doing your own way. It's about how to study market intelligence differently. It's about how to do things differently based on technology. For me, this right now, technology and football is a massive competitive advantage if you are using it properly.
I don't think anyone thinks like you though in football. From the people that I speak to and meet, no one of the execs that I speak to know what a data lake is. I don't mean that horribly to them, but I think you'd agree with me.
Yeah.
But for me, in this moment is, okay, what is outside? And maybe it's the situation in France that is obligating you to think like this, is I need as much competitive advantages that they are outside and I'm not using traditionally to have an advantage, because if not, I cannot keep my competitiveness.
If I were to give you $100 million today, where would you invest in the club that you're not investing currently?
First of all, infrastructures.
What does that mean? The actual stadium infrastructure?
Actual stadium, because this is the fastest return of investment. Second one, player capex, because I would like to have my sporting result. I'm not speaking about timing, I'm speaking about the length of the investment. Infrastructures, player capex. Third, technology, I think, right now. Fourth, say like this, fourth is about how to transform your business based on culture.
Good, I like that.
And Erling Haaland's right leg.
His toenail.
Only one, though.
Toenail.
You can only get one leg. Final one from me. You look at this next 5-year period for Marseille. What do you want to achieve in that time to put the club where you know they can get to? What does that look like?
Winning next game, winning next month, qualifying to Champions League. In this period, winning a trophy that is helping you to have a sustainability. I would like to be considered a super innovative team, taking some different ways of technology the others they are not using. I would like to be proud on that and improving a lot our stadium and our fan experience, because this is driving a lot of growth for the club. Winning games, winning trophies, being innovative and going to where the others they are not going right now, and increasing a lot our fan experience and connecting digitally to create an international community, because we have a lot of values that they can be interesting for the international fans.
Pablo, this has been so much fun. I've loved doing this. I also love your knowledge of the P&L, like me asking you about the cost of the pitch and you being able to recite it, or the tech budget and being able to, dude, this has been fantastic. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And it's very important right now that the football executives, you have to have a huge leverage about and knowledge about finances and how the processes work. I believe about the strategy, and to have a real strategy, you have to be as well financial driven.
So come on here and talk about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.